Well, woohoo! I'm finally hanging the ground molding. Like I'd mentioned, I did scarf these together and pre-glue them up to turn them into almost 16-foot pieces. My wife is coming in, any imperfections there, and sanding those out. I just find it's a lot easier to deal with 16s rather than make many joints and try to glue the scarf joints up in the ceiling. To hang pieces like that, I take a scrap of the molding and in 3 places set the spring angle and just make pencil marks. And then I'll hold it up there and I'll drive a nail up into the ceiling and one into the wall, and then over here and do the same thing down there. Then you can get your piece up there and adjust it and then come back and nail it into your studs. I am coping the corners here as well as having to do outside miters here. In the last video I'd mentioned that you're never going to find a 90-degree corner, but these 2 corners right here have made me out to be a liar. These are definitely 90 degrees. Never would have thought that would have happened. Now, you don't have the leadway on coping crown like you do on base. On base, you don't even really need to measure a corner. You can rock it back and forth and it usually will not open up the gap if you back cut it enough. You don't get that luxury on crown. By the way, it's nested together and it comes up at angles. If you try to cut this at 45 and it's too far out, you may have a gap at the top or a gap at the bottom. It's just not going to rest in there properly, regardless on how much you back cut it. So on these corners, I am measuring them out. Let's say this one was 92 degrees and this one was 87. The saw is set up accordingly to make those particular cuts. And when you do that, you do end up with a very nice tight fitting joint that just works. So I've made it down to this corner. I'm getting ready to wrap around it. And I've got to go all the way back into the kitchen, come around here, all the way down there, and then back to the fire. For filling all the nail holes and any dents, dings, and imperfections, we're trying out this MH Ready patch, which is a Zinsser product. And this is turning out to be some really cool stuff. They claim it's shrink and crack resistant. I think resistant is the key word. It does shrink up a little bit, so we're leaving it on just a little bit proud, but it sands super easy. I like using the rock hard putty for things like this, but you don't have as much working time like you do with this product and trying to get up and down the ladder a zillion times and make matches to do this. This product is a better choice for us, and so far we're really liking it. You might check this out. Well, this is the extent of my scrap with the exception of a bunch of V cutouts. I shot this material list really tight. I gave myself no room for error, so I had to be very, very correct in my measurements and my cuts, and it worked out. It's all installed now. It has been caulked in. All the nail holes have been filled and sanded down. It really did transform the space. The camera can't do it justice, but man, it really did change the appearance and the look of this front rooms and the hallway. And of course it comes back around and terminates at the fireplace there. I probably should have primed this before I put it up, but I just didn't want to. I wanted to get it hung. So it's going to be more of a pain to shoot it with primer and, you know, sand it again in between coats, but no big deal. That way I know everything is there already. I'm not wasting anything other than some of my labor. And all in all, I'm completely pleased with it. Well, now I'm on to caulking baseboards, filling holes, door jambs, casings, whatever we need to get it prepared for paint. This is one of those things that's really non-gratifying. It's lame. It's a lot of time on task, but it is necessary. So once all this is completed throughout the house as far as I can take it, then we'll be ready to start shooting some primer and some color on this and moving in. You know, once you get this stuff down, it feels like you're almost finished, but there's a lot more work in the interim that has to be done. But it is going to turn out nice, for sure. Well, here's another issue, courtesy of the drywall guys. When you're sanding corners, you have to be careful not to gouge into the other side, and they just dug craters in there for me. So rather than try to put in new mud and then sand it out and make it right, An easy solution to that is just come in the corner and lay a bead of caulk and then smooth it out with your finger and tool it down. And it really helps clean those corners up. They look really nice now. They did the same thing along the ceilings, so every joint is getting a bead of caulk in it. Should I have to do it? No, but I have to fix it. Okay, well, I'm out in the garage. We reinstalled some baseboard from the house out here to reuse it and put the garage in primer. I used a PVA primer, which is the proper product for new drywall, fresh mud, patches, things like that, to seal it in. It's very inexpensive, about $40 for 5 gallons, dirt cheap. There's still going to be some painting going on out here, so the color will be shot last, and then we'll finish up with the garage door behind me and the opener. But it's certainly a far cry from what it used to look like out here when we first started the project. Alright, well, I'm finally starting to get some painting accomplished inside the house. Here's an example of one of the old door jambs that's been all patched and body worked, and here's one that is completed. They really did turn out nice. It's going to seem odd, but I certainly have a method to my madness here. This particular back bedroom here, I'm doing this bedroom first, complete, finished fixtures, the whole 9 yards with the exception of the windowsill. And the reason I'm doing that is I've got all the cabinetry still in the house and the garage is loaded up, and it's a pain to move it around. So all the kitchen cabinets and whatnot are going to come into this room, and it's going to be sealed off until the whole house is finished interior wise in terms of painting. Then they'll be broken out of here and installed on the wall, and I can move on. But this room is now in primer. It's all trimmed out and ready to roll. The drywall sanding crew were pretty heavy-handed on their sanding, so they fuzzed the paper up really good on the wall. So once it was sealed in with this PVA primer, I'm coming back with a brand new tool that I've just purchased and used, which is one of these Radius 360 sanders. This thing is actually really cool as opposed to the square rectangular pole sanders that have a tendency to flip on their side and gouge your work. This one stays flat to the wall, and I certainly, after doing all the repairs in here on the drywall, don't want to make any dings and gouges at this stage of the game. So I picked one of these up. It was about 45 bucks. I'll review it in a separate video. So I'm at the stage now where I'm doing the light sanding and knocking down all the fuzz. I'll come in and dust it off, and then the next thing I'm going to do is shoot all the trim, which will happen today. Once the trim sets up real good, it will be masked off, and then I will shoot the color. Now when I'm shooting it, I'm shooting and my wife is coming back and back rolling right behind me. In putting this room in primer, including the ceilings and the closet, it probably took 10 minutes to shoot it and back roll it. And then I did apply a second coat of primer on it, which was about another 10 minutes. So really only about 20 to 30 minutes all said and done. And the back rolling portion of it is really not necessary on the primer. We're just doing it anyway to get even coverage. But on the walls, some folks might just spray them and walk out, and that's fine until a wall needs to be patched or touched up. And if there's no type of texturing to it whatsoever, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb when you try to match it in, or you'll have to paint the entire wall again. So that's one reason for the back rolling. Well, the trim has been sprayed in this room. Turned out really nice. Looks great. Of course, it's hard to tell, but it has been painted.